Okay, so I noticed yesterday when you were sparring with Chris, um, and he was just kind of taking a beating. And afterwards he asked you like, what are some things I could be doing better, and you told him like you did good. You hung in there, but sometimes you have to know when to stop. So would you ever consider like in a street fight scenario or some sort of street scenario ever like leaving the confrontation, like realizing, okay, this is not going to work, this person's too dangerous, like, after getting hit once or twice and leaving, like, would you ever consider that? Do you ever suggest that? Or would you just fight it out and hope for the best? Because, there's like the fight or flight. And what do you think on that? Do you think there's ever a proper time to kind of just get out, just leave and go, run away or whatever?
I think if you ever have that option of leaving, that doesn't mean that you're truly in danger. It just means that you're probably fighting over your ego, and that if you have the option of leaving, then you probably shouldn't be fighting to begin with. But if you don't have the option, then that's what true self-defense is. Like, you just don't have an option of leaving because they won't let you leave. Because if somebody's truly trying to hurt you, he's not allowing you to leave. Like, you're trying to leave and then he's tackling you, he's
Right.
grounding and pounding you, he's choking you, he's grabbing you. You don't have the option to leave because you're trying to survive. So if you have the option of leaving, where you guys are just, taking your time and you're looking at each other, like how a martial art sparring match goes, it's not really survival at that moment. It's just you're fighting for your pride, and that's different. And I don't agree to fighting for pride, especially out there. It goes against the values of the martial arts. So when we're sparring in here, it's clearly not a street fight. It's martial artists that are testing their techniques, and you have the option of stopping at any time because it's like a scientific approach to better yourself in combat. It's not survival. Survival is completely different. So survival is just like a guy that just feels threatened. A lot of articles out there, like that football player, got in a road rage with some 50-year-old guy. I think the football player's like 25, and then the guy was like 50 years old. Road rage. The older gentleman was driving an Infiniti, and then there was a road rage incident, and then the football player got out of his car, and then the 50-year-old took out his gun and shot the football player while he was in the car. And I don't know, haven't followed up on it, but at that time, they didn't even put him in jail because they said that was justified self-defense.
Right.
Standing his ground. So say if you're in your home and somebody's breaking in and you shoot them and kill them, in most states you're allowed to do that. That's more survival, But martial arts is not really, a lot of times it's not survival, it's just you enjoy the combat because you want to see what you're capable of and what you're not capable of, and you stop it right before you get injured too much, because it's not truly survival. It's essentially like a game, like a game to practice, like a dance,
Mm-hmm.
or something where you're trying to see, all this training that you've done, can you do it? Can you get those kicks to work the way that you want them to work, those punches, and can you block and defend? It's more of like I'll say more of like a game of chess, but with your body, like mental game, physical game, and it's not supposed to involve anger or anything like that, or much emotions. It's just in meditation, you might be in meditation, or you might be in concentration, or you might be focused, but there shouldn't be any emotions involved, and you should be able to stop at any moment, because you're not truly in danger, But when you're out there in the streets, it's not a game.
Right.
It's supposed to be for survival. So if you have the option of running, then go ahead and run, But people will say, oh, you should just run. If a group of people want to attack you, you should just run. But who says that you're fast enough? Who says that you have enough endurance? Because if you don't have enough endurance and there's 3 people chasing after you and you run and you get tired, then what's going to happen then? Then they're gonna tackle you and beat you down, right? If somebody has a knife and he wants to hurt you, well, you said run, but what if they're faster than you? and then they catch you with the knife and they stab you and kill you. They kill you. So people, they say, oh, I'll just run away. That doesn't necessarily mean that you'll survive just because that you want to run away. So say you think about a woman that's getting raped, you tell her to run. Well, what if she's not fast enough? Then he tackles her and he rapes her. So she wants to get away, but she can't. And that's what real survival is.
Right.
So if you're getting attacked by a man who really wants to hurt you, you don't have the option of running, because either you don't have enough endurance or he's not allowing you to. He backed you in the corner. You have nowhere to go, right?
Yeah. Do you think there's any value in training that kind of flight instinct instead of the fight? Because it's not really focused in on in the martial arts, besides like, parkour kind of focuses on that flight aspect. Do you think there's any merit to that, like really training, focusing on like sprinting, and do you think there's anything useful in that?
Very useful, but I wouldn't say parkour, because parkour is more for entertainment, and it's more like gymnastics, like a floor routine where they're running and they're doing flips like that. That's not necessary. But running like a 100-meter dash, like what Usain Bolt would do, would be highly practical. Now I wouldn't say running a mile. I wouldn't imagine having to run a mile away from somebody, but I would say like 100 meters, 200 meters.
Right.
At the most 400 meters. I mean, just think about a real situation where you got 3 guys in a gang or whatever, they got knives and they want to come kill you, and you got to outrun them to live. I mean, that could be real. And even with the guns, I mean, the first thing that they teach you when somebody introduces the gun is run and hide. Run and get cover. So if you're in the store and you don't have a gun yourself, even if you do have a gun, the first thing that you do when you hear shots being fired is running for cover. So running is extremely important for your survival. You look at animals, you look at like the hyenas and the deer. The lions might be hunting down the deer, and the deers are running for their lives. They can't stand and fight. Right. They'll get killed. They have to run. So we all should be able to run. Even Bruce Lee would say, that every martial artist should be able to run, a few miles, no problem. If you practice martial arts and you can't run a few miles with no issues, then you're not where you need to be. You should be able to sprint fast, as a martial artist. And so then you have both options. You can run, or you can stand and fight. You have 2 options, and you try to outrun them. They chase after you, and they're faster than you, or they're just as fast. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to stop, and then that's when you fight. And you even see it in Bruce's movies where, like Enter the Dragon, he's being chased around by all these other people. He's running and he's fighting, running and then fighting. I know Jackie Chan does it a lot, but he's not, but he's running a lot too. Like even Tony Jaa in On Bak, he's like running from like 20, 30 people, running and then fighting, running and then fighting. There's going to be instances where you might have to run. So running is extremely important, but like I said, I wouldn't say parkour is important. But if you could sprint fast, I'd say sprinting is much more practical than long distance running for martial arts. Right. Like you don't need to run a marathon. No, not at all. Not even a mile. But like I said, maybe a few blocks. Even police officers, because I did have police background. Running is important because the offender could run from you, and you can't necessarily shoot them. You might not want to shoot them, so you're gonna have to chase after them. Right. So as a police officer, you need to chase after the people. And as a martial artist, when would you have to run after somebody? I really, there'll be an instance where somebody, maybe he's abducted your child. Right. You're at the park and then he grabbed your child by the arm and just trying to take him to the van, and you got to chase after the guy. Right. Or it could be somebody, maybe somebody stole your bike. Like your bike was right there, it's a $5,000 bike, and then you're training in the park, and then they took the bike, they started running, started going with it, and then you got to chase after them. Right. Or you're with your woman, and then somebody snatches a purse. You could run after them, you could let it go, but you could run, but it's up to you, because the person might have a gun, might have a knife, it might escalate further than it needs to be. So you chase after him, and then you find out he has a knife, then you just might back up, you're like, go, take it. You know, so there could be instances where you might have to chase after somebody, and then there could be instances where you need to run away from somebody because you really are in danger. So um, that's definitely a necessity, and I think people don't put that in consideration, but it should be a part of the martial artist's overall assessment. Okay, he could spar. Okay, can he sprint?
Right.
You know, how fast could he run a mile, or not even a mile, but what's his 10-meter time? Like Usain Bolt, for example, they don't consider him a martial artist, but that's an aspect of the martial arts that is important.
Right.
So I would be curious to know what was Bruce Lee's 100-meter dash. You know, how fast could he run that? You know, how high could Bruce Lee jump? You know, how much could he bench press? How many push-ups could he do? How many pull-ups he could do? How much could he barbell squat? You know, we know that he's fast with his hands. We know that he's fast with his legs when it comes to kicking. We know that he could spar really nice. But it's good to know every little facet of his physical abilities, because the martial artist is supposed to represent like the elite when it comes to fitness. Right. Like not just in one area, not just like Usain Bolt where he could only run, but then when it comes to sparring, he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm talking about martial artists needs to be able to spar, but then the fitness has to be so up there that it's just everything is well-rounded.
Right.
You know, so, you know, like people that are overweight, for example, they would shy away from running because they know that's not what they're good at. So then they just be like, oh, you know, you should always fight. You know, bodybuilders too, not just overweight people, but bodybuilders or powerlifters, they're strong, but they can't run. So then they'll be like, oh, you know, then all that matters is just fight it out. You know, but it's not just about that. A martial artist is not a bodybuilder. He's not a power lifter. He's not a football player. He's somebody who's highly efficient with his athleticism. Mm-hmm. So somebody like a Bruce Lee where he could run, but he's also strong and fast and, you know, just very well-rounded. You know, like he's not an excessive to one area. Because powerlifters are just strong, but they probably can't. They probably don't even run down the block without huffing and puffing. Right. Because it's just a different physical development. Martial artists they like I said, they have to be good in everything. They got to be flexible. They got to be fast. They got to have endurance. They got to have everything. They got to know how to fight. Everything needs to be developed. You cannot ignore any one facet. Right. So if there's anybody that says, you know, I'm a great martial artist, but they can't sprint too well, then I say that there's some problems because there's that weakness, that area that they are not underdeveloped in, right, that should be developed, you know, and there's no excuses, you know. So everything needs to develop, you know, all the firearms training, the weapons training. So you should be able to be very versatile, right, you know, in what you do, you know. So running is not necessarily a cowardly thing to do or a bad thing to do or something you should be ashamed about. I mean, Usain Bolt is one of the most popular people and one of the most popular Olympic people in the world, and he was just a straight runner. You're like just sprinter. Like there's beauty in running and appreciate it. There's beauty in martial arts and like the fighting, the sparring aspect, but that running aspect it's amazing. You know, because you know, think about it. You know, if it came down to it and you had to run for your life, somebody's shooting at you, you're not fast enough. Like say somebody came in the door right now and started shooting, I'm quick enough and I could survive because I ran there quick enough. You just was just a second, 2 seconds too slow, and then you died. Right. You know, because especially if it's somebody coming into a movie theater starts shooting everybody, you're fast enough, you're out of there, you lived. You're not fast enough, you die. I mean that's life or death right there. Just because you lacked your cardio, that's why you're dead right now. You know, right. It could be a situation like that, or somebody's on top of you trying to ground and pound you, and you're strong in your bench press, you're able to push them off, and then you lived. But say you weren't strong in your bench press, you couldn't push him off, and then he ends up killing you. You know, so it could be these instances where you're not at your optimum fitness, and that's what costs you your life. Right. You know, so I don't like running myself as far as long distance running, but you know, short distance I have absolutely no problem with. I love biking, but the relevancy from martial arts, and another thing is boxers, they all jump rope, and jump roping is just like another form of running. Yeah. You know, it's just a different way of running. So Mayweather's excellent at jump roping. I know Muhammad Ali's excellent at it. Bruce Lee was good at jump roping. Jump roping is known to be extremely important for not just martial arts, but for boxers. and all the people that are in combat sport. So that's already pretty much your answer right there, how important it is to be good in that area. So even as a boxer, you got to go 12 rounds, so that requires a lot of endurance. So what is running? Endurance training. So that's another indication of how important running is, not just for the martial arts, but also for combat sport. But for the streets, it's different. You don't need to go 12 rounds. Usually the fight should end within 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It's more of a high intensity sprint. Like Usain Bolt was less than 10 seconds, 100 meters. That's kind of how a real fight is. Like 10 seconds.
Right.
Get it done with. Like that's how a real fight is. But sparring could last a long time. Like what we just did yesterday was like 10 minutes. It was just kind of like more of just technique focus and taking our time to practice our technique. But it wasn't really fighting for your life.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that with you or take it to that level, because then you don't get to see all the different techniques that you could work on. So I started to appreciate when working with you and the student that did the Wing Chun, is to be able to go lighter, so you could kind of work on techniques and let the sparring match last longer, opposed to going so hard so fast and then it ends within 10 seconds. Like, where's the training? Right. It's like going to the gym for 10 seconds and then you leave. It's like, like we need more than 10 seconds to work out, Right. So let's go in there for a good hour. So when we spar and we don't go too hard, now you're working more on your blocking techniques, your movement, your control, and your punching, your kicking. Now you're giving yourself more time to get better at sparring. So I'm starting to appreciate that more too. Right. Not just, it has to be real all the time. Let's just go hard. Like then I kick him one time, like, oh shit, I gotta stop. And like, I'm starting to appreciate that other part. So I like that. And then what I like is, like, for you having experience, the Wing Chun guy having experience, like you guys have something to work off of, and you guys are trying to make work what you guys have been training in. Right. And you could tell the difference between. I can tell the difference between me sparring you and me sparring him than somebody who doesn't have any experience at all, because they have nothing to work off of. So they're just flailing, right? Or they're just doing like a fight or flight response, and they're just not looking, and they're just going. That's not fun sparring with them, because it's not really too artful, right? Because they go dirty, then I gotta go dirty. They want to take it to the ground. Okay, then fine. Like, let me hit you hard, because I don't want to go on the ground. So I'm going to hit your ass really hard. Right. And then it just gets messy. And I don't like that. It's not that, it's okay, but I want the other aspect too, where it's a martial artist, where they're not trying to, they have some technique behind what they're doing. Right. Like Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris is a really nice choreographed fight. It wasn't just him fighting some random guy who doesn't know shit, and then he just punches him once and the guy goes, and then he's down. No, like Chuck Norris gave him a run for his money. Yeah. Those are two martial artists really sparring. That's really entertaining. That's what I like. Good technique coming from both parties. And that's what's great about working with Davin, for example. Like, you see those techniques being played out, and it's very interesting, and that's what martial arts is. Like people that are trained, respectful, and they're not fighting out of anger. They're fighting because it's like an aggressive dance to them. Right. I think even Bruce Lee mentioned that. It's like an aggressive dance. And that's what capoeira is, like dancing. What I do is like dancing. Yeah. I don't need even to be with anybody. I can move like a dancer. And capoeira is like that. And Bruce Lee was a dancer when he was before he even did martial arts. He was really good at dancing. Like, it's been known that martial artists, in order to be good at martial arts, you also need to be good at dancing, because dancing is body movement. Martial arts is body movement. So we're expressing movements with our bodies as we spar, and then there's something artful about it. It's not just a freaking, seeing somebody get hit by a car and then they're dead, they're about to die, right? It's not that. Right. Let's see, all this blood flying everywhere, teeth everywhere, and it's not that. I mean, a martial artist could be in danger, and then that might end up happening, but that's not the artful part of it. That's just the part of surviving. Like I said, if somebody came in here with guns, I'm not gonna be punching and kicking. I'm gonna go get my gun, and I'm gonna take care of the situation. Yeah. It's kind of hard to imagine a time when I won't use the gun, but if it happens, it might be a situation where I'm not really that threatened, but I'm just standing up for myself. You know, somebody comes up to me and starts saying, "Hey, you fucking blah blah blah," and I'm like, what's up? You got a problem? And they want to take it to the fist level, and then we'll go there. But I'm not gonna shoot and kill him just because he called me something, right?
Right.
But I'll stand up for myself, in certain instances, and I'm not afraid to take it to that level. And then if it does go to that level, then it'll be the situation where I might have punched him a few times and kicked him a few times. Like, oh shit, like, man, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Sorry, man. Then I'll let him walk away. I'm not gonna beat him down until he's dead. But standing up for yourself is important. That's what martial arts teaches you. Like, stand up. You might not have to physically stand up for yourself, but verbally you just stand up for yourself. You're like, look, I don't deserve to be disrespected like that. You're like, what did you have to say that for?
Right.
And that's what martial arts teaches you, is that you stand up for yourself verbally, and if it gets to the physical, you're not afraid of that. You've been training that all your life. To you, it's almost fun. Like, hey, you want to take it to the physical, well, I'll turn you into a demo. like that's where you get to, where you don't have fear to fighting. You don't have fear. And that's a very liberating thing when you practice martial arts. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people, they go to the gym, but they don't know martial arts. And they might look strong. They might even be strong. But if it came down to fighting, they're afraid. Because they can't fight.
Yeah.
And they know it. Yeah. So they're not truly developed in all areas. Because what's the point of looking strong and even being strong, but then you can't even defend yourself? It's embarrassing. Especially if you're trying to fight for your woman or something, or your children.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. So I think people that go to the gym and they're in shape and they want to get in shape, it's only natural to head towards the martial arts. Because why are you in shape? Okay, but then if somebody tries to attack you, you die because you don't know what to do.
Right.
So martial arts brings a functional purpose into the physical fitness training. Like, unlike the gym, they're just working out. Oh, let me look at my muscles. Look good, yeah. But here we don't. It's not that. We work out so we get better at the sparring.
Right.
So then everything that we do when we work out is transferred into here. That's why we do a lot of the stretching, because if you don't stretch, you're gonna get very slow. You can be very stiff. So we value the stretching a lot. And we don't spend too much time in the weights, and we spend the time necessary, but that's not all we do. You see, we do 2 hours here. We spend like maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes on the weight training, and then another 30 minutes on the stretching, and then we work on the combat. Like, it's diversified. Yeah. Like, we might not be as ripped as some of these bodybuilders, but I guarantee you martial arts will whoop the shit out of a bodybuilder. A straight bodybuilder, doesn't do no combat, he will get destroyed. I don't care like how fancy your muscles, pecs look, you will get demolished from a martial artist. Hands down. Even like Mayweather, he's not a martial artist, but you can see the skill and talent there. He's not like, oh, look at my biceps, look at how ripped it is. Like, no, he'll just destroy all those bodybuilders, And that's the great thing about martial arts, is like, it's not all about the looks. Yeah. And it's not all about the age. Just because you're younger don't mean that you're going to beat up the older guy. The older guy could be highly trained, and he'll just destroy you because he's just so good at what he does. It's a skill. And then when you get into the firearms, you can see even more. Like, a lot of these firearms instructors are probably older guys that just really comfortable and confident in what they do, and they just shooting all these targets like no issues. Yeah. Because they're just what they're good at. And then it's not even fitness at that point. It's not even about running at that point. They're just so good at the firearm. They don't need to run. They don't need to be fit. They just shoot and kill anybody. Right. And that's what the aspect of the firearms brought into, that made the martial arts almost irrelevant for self-defense. Then it became more of a spiritual practice and more of a fitness thing. Fitness and spirit, meditation, opposed to self-defense. Because the self-defense has been pretty much monopolized by firearms. Right. Survival. Yeah. And I recognize that. And I embrace that. I value the firearms too. But it's just not fun to come in here and just pull a trigger for an hour. Sparring is just so much more fun. Right. It's awesome. Like it's just irreplaceable.
Right.
But any guns and firearms and all that, you know. But yeah. Any other thing? Do you want to go into another topic?
Yeah.
Okay.